Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today's event is a very special event for us as the university, as the National University of Lesotho. We decided to invite members of the media to be in conversation with the university because the circumstances in which we are imposed on us by COVID have made it very difficult for us to interact the way we are used to interacting. But before we do that, I want to recognize those of us who are here and those of us who we are expecting to be here. By way of introductions, I am Diteboho Makadika Rotodi, and I'm the Registrar of the National University of Lesotho since 2015. I want to recognize the Vice Chancellor, Professor Fajana, the Pro-Vice Chancellor, Professor Musito, the Beza, Me Mansuinta Upani, the librarian, Me Bushe Mbambotata. I want to recognize all members of the senior management of the university. I see some directors are here. You're welcome, Bomel Bondade. I see some deans are represented. That I presume you are representing your dean or head of department or your faculty or department, and the rest of you members of the media. It would be interesting for us to, just by way of indication, to know which media houses are here. I'll just go quickly round, and when I look at you, you say where you are coming from. If you can mention your name, also do so. We are interested because this event is an information sharing event, but also a response to several requests by some of you, some of the media houses, for the university to be in conversation with them on the issues that we are presenting today. And they were on the program, and there was no information because they had wanted to talk about issues which we had not been in conversation with them about. Let me go to the welcome remarks. Bomel Bondade, we are glad that you could respond to such a short notice invitation. The National University is committed as much as possible to share with you information on what is happening at the university. It is also committed, as it has been the case, to respond to issues that are raised by the community at large. Other than sharing information on matters of interest, we are very excited as the National University of Lesotho to present today a new Vice Chancellor. You will have been aware that we have operated for a long time now with vacancies, which, although they existed, they were properly filled by senior management staff of the university who appropriately were suitable to fill those positions. Those are the two reasons why we invited you here. But most importantly, that we want to make ourselves available for you to raise questions so that we can respond to them all at once. We are saying all at once because this is a very busy week for us. It is the beginning of a new academic year, which under normal circumstances should have begun in August, which is last month. So we are running late by 1 month, the same way as we ran late by 1 month last year in 2020. Last year we were hit by COVID-19, and adjusting to the circumstances that prevailed was difficult. This year we thought we had adjusted to COVID-19, and then we were hit by the the late release of the LGCSE results. So for a number of reasons, different sets of reasons, we are beginning an academic year later than scheduled. And for that reason, it was not going to be as possible as we normally do for us to entertain invitations from all of you for interviews and for sessions, for information until we will have settled. Having said that, I want us to go to a critical aspect of today's event and invite Professor Musito, the Pro-Vice Chancellor, who has been holding forward as the Vice Chancellor for well over a year. You know, when you are in a chair for well over a year, we even forget that you are acting. So for a very long time, we are going to be calling him VC Musito, because really we had gotten used to him as the Vice Chancellor. And many people, when we announced that we are welcoming a new Vice Chancellor, and they said, what's wrong with Musito? There's nothing wrong with him. He was acting. By law, he was acting. Professor Musito, please come, Professor, and introduce the new Vice Chancellor.
Thank you very much, Madam Registrar. Mr. Vice Chancellor, members of the Fourth Estate, dear colleagues from the National University of Lesotho, permit me, in advance of executing my assignment, to start by making one or two sentences in relation to a press conference. It is my very first time to attend a press conference and make presentations before members of the media, ever since I was born. So you will definitely appreciate that I might be beginning to panic. But you know I'm not a panic mechanic, isn't it? Two, because I've been given a very important assignment to execute, I hope you are going to bear with me by underscoring the point that a university or any other organization cannot subsist without brushing shoulders with the media. The media can build, and the media can destroy you. This explains why we ululated in celebration last year when the National University of Lesotho was given an award of being the most responsive public institution in this country whenever the media wanted to get information. And we celebrated. But because COVID was with us, we could not invite you to come and celebrate with us. We had to celebrate online. For that reason, we had to live to the true expectation of the award, so that we appreciate the fact that we were given such an award. We want to run with it, and we do not expect any other public institution to come and snatch it from us. We are saying no to it. The NUL will remain ever open and ever most responsive. Madam Registrar, let me execute my assignment. Members of the media, I have been requested to come and introduce the new Vice Chancellor of the National University of Lesotho. And in advance of doing so, I wish to point out that, indeed, as you know, the National University of Lesotho was established as such in 1975. Earlier on, it had gone through a metamorphosis of first being a pious, the 12th college. It came down to being the University of Bechuanaland, Basotholand, and Swaziland. It came down to being the University of Basotholand, Bechuanaland, Lesotho, and Swaziland, until in 1975 when she became the National University of Lesotho. As the National University of Lesotho, it was established by an Act of Parliament. When an organization is established by an Act of Parliament, it now becomes a public institution. And when you say it is a public institution, you actually mean that it was established by an Act of Parliament. That Act of Parliament is the constitution of the university. It means, therefore, if you want to find out about the functions of the university, you then have to look to an Act of Parliament that established the university. That act was amended in 1992, so much so that the current act on which the activities of the National University of Lesotho are founded is the 1992 National University of Lesotho Act. In 2002, it was amended to introduce a dimension of the role to be played by the Minister of Education. But you realize, members of the media, that even that 2002 Act does not say that the ministry or the minister manages or runs the university. It only specifies some of those parts which, or assignments or responsibilities which the minister may execute in relation to the university. One of the most important points to make is that the Vice Chancellor of the university in terms of the NUL Act is the Supreme Administrative and Chief Accounting Officer of the university. You will remember that in 2019, the former Vice Chancellor, Professor Nkosamahau, left office in consequence of the expiration of his contract, which was for 5 years. And since that time, the university had been operating without a substantive Vice Chancellor, and I had been acting in the office, praying hard, awaiting the incoming of a substantive Vice Chancellor. The registrar rightly points out that yes, I was Vice Chancellor, but acting. And I never wished to remain in that office because had I, then I would have applied for that post. I had not. But I had to hold the fort by reason of being the pro-Vice Chancellor, which means the Deputy Vice Chancellor. Now that he is here, I am much relieved. The many questions that I used to answer, I'm no longer going to be able to answer, Mr. Vice Chancellor. Ladies and gentlemen, I am before you to present the new Vice Chancellor of the National University of Lesotho, Professor Olusola Isaac Fajana. Professor Fajana is a proud national of the Republic of Nigeria. Before joining the National University of Lesotho, Professor Fajana was a full professor of labor economics and human resource management at the University of Lagos, where he has worked for about 4 decades. He also facilitated at the University of Lagos Business School, and he is associated with the Business School Netherlands, based in South Africa. He holds a Bachelor of Science, Economics, from the University of Ife, which he obtained in 1981. He also holds a Master of Science from the University of Lagos, which he obtained in 1985. He obtained a PhD from the same university in 1991, both in industrial relations and personnel management. He has professional fellowships of different organizations. I am just going to highlight a few. One, the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management. Two, the Academy of Management Nigeria. Three, the Nigerian Institute of Management. And four, the Institute of Entrepreneurship. And I am sure I have tried to be time economical by avoiding mentioning all. He is a council member of the Nigerian Labor and Employment Relations Association and member of the Executive Committee of the International Labor and Employment Relations Association, based at the International Labor Organization, ILO, in Geneva. He is a member of Emerald Literati in the United Kingdom. Professor Fajana is a certified Start and Improve Your Business trainer of the International Training Center, ILO, in Turin, Italy, and Geneva, and was educated also at the University of Sussex in Brighton, UK. He also received professional training at the Harvard University, Bristol George Mary Center in Maryland, the United States of America, and Gordon Institute of Business Science, University of Pretoria, South Africa. Professor Fajana has traveled on conference visits, accreditation, international visitors programs, and research and publications collaborations as editor of journals and reviewers of conference papers, online and physical convocation and keynote addresses, and kindred academic and professional services across all the 5 continents of the globe. He consults for 2 major agencies of the United Nations Organization on labor and social issues. That is UNICEF and ILO. In his academic and professional career, Professor Fajana has jointly and singly supervised over 140 master's theses and 11 Doctor of Philosophy degrees candidates. He received an award from the Nigerian Universities Commission in 2012 for co-supervising the best thesis in 2009 in the field of administration throughout the Nigerian university system. He has co-authored and authored over 150 scholarly publications in his academic and professional discipline. He is well cited on Google Scholar, ResearchGate, Academia, among others. It is important for me to say, members of the media, that in academia, for you to be said to be a renowned academic, we have to know where to find you. If when we check these international databases, your name does not appear, and the next thing you run all over to say, I'm an academic, we begin to frown and say, really, where do we find him? Professor Fajana was Vice Chancellor at the Joseph Ayo Babalola University, Aracake, Nigeria, from 2011 to 2018. He is on the governing board of some of the primary, secondary, and tertiary institutions, and he is currently the chairman, Planning and Implementation Committee of the proposed Vision University at Ikobo, Ibeza in Nigeria. Perhaps I should underscore the point that indeed he is the Vice Chancellor of the most prestigious university as we now speak, the National University of Lesotho. He is also a member ex officio of the University Council and all its governing structures, head and leader of our institution. With your permission, Madam Registrar, members of the media, dear ladies and gentlemen, I have not been able to capture all that I would otherwise have wished to, because I was told we have to economize on time. So when Prof. Fajana comes to say a statement, he may touch on some of the issues which I have advisedly omitted to include in my brief introduction. I have the honor, through you, Madam Registrar, to invite Professor Fajana, whom I am introducing to you as the new Vice Chancellor of the university, and to request him to make a statement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, VC Mosito. The registrar and other principal officers of the university, academic and non-teaching staff, gentlemen of the press, women, say good morning. VC Mosito has said that he is now relieved that he will not be seeing his face as Vice Chancellor acting at the National University of Lesotho. But I've always told him that he cannot do that so soon. You're used to seeing his face as the face of the NUL, and he has introduced me now that it is my face that you will be seeing as the face of the NUL. To me, this is a very exciting moment, and I'm glad to see you all here this morning, and it's a great pleasure and unrestrained excitement that I welcome you this morning to the only national university in Lesotho, this university of legacy, nurturing thought leaders, and making global impacts. We are especially grateful to the media practitioners who will share this wonderful news with members of the public for responding positively to our invitation despite the short notice. We're already running on the agenda for this meeting. It's a two-item agenda, my introduction, and also to give you updates on the current developments in the university. My entry. I came on board and assumed duty on the 2nd of August, 2021, as the 10th Vice Chancellor of the National University of Lesotho, having been selected according to the law guiding the appointments of Vice Chancellors, specifically through the screening done by the Joint Committee of Council and Senate. My selection was duly approved by the Chancellor and President of the Kingdom of Lesotho, His Majesty, let's say the third, through the Ministry of Education and Training. I have since the 2nd of August and up to this moment had a great time on the ground in the university, going through very organized schedule of onboarding that enabled me to see firsthand the opportunities, the threats, the strengths, the weaknesses, together with the policies and procedures of the university as it has progressively operated through a checkered history of steady growth, of legacies, and of impacts for the past 75 years or so. The NUL has provided solutions to the economic, social, political, legal, and technological challenges confronting the Kingdom of Lesotho and the African region, as well as the globe. So what is my attitude to this appointment? What's my response? The last 1 month or so has enabled me to review my initial view of the NUL, Historically, the NUL has mostly relied on expatriates to provide leadership at the level of its governance. As a professional of African origin and nurture, my coming on board gives me an opportunity to do a corrective to this perception. So please permit me to share a different view. I do not see myself as an expatriate, but rather as an African with a global orientation, with the prospect of making an impact at the NUL. This global orientation is a must for humanity at a time like this, when globalization has made the world a very small village, especially in the aftermath of COVID-19, climate change, and surge in global terrorism. So, what is my vision for the NUL? It is to ensure that the NUL becomes a unique brand and is ranked among the first 50 universities in Africa and among the first 500 globally. When I gave my vision to the university in 2020 to the Committee of Council and Senate, I said I would want the NUL to be number 5 by the middle of my tenure, and to be number 50 in Africa and all that. But now I have had to revise that vision when I saw the reality on the ground when I came on board. So I have not given a timeline to this vision. It is because I'm a very die-hard optimist. It could be possible in 5 years, it could be possible in 2 years. But the progress that we make will determine whether or not we are able to achieve that vision. And we cannot do it alone without the cooperation of everyone sitting in this place today. So how will I achieve, or shall we try to achieve this aspiration? It is to make NUL an institution of international distinction through the high quality of its graduates, the global relevance of its curricula, the uniqueness of adopted pedagogies, relevant development-oriented researches and innovations, and community service. The NUL shall provide innovation and policy services of distinction to Africa and the world in a secure and peaceful environment driven by integrity, diversity, dignity, productivity, and commitment, competitiveness, and prudence. And all of these, you will agree with me, are core values that African people delightfully relish and promote. NUL shall contribute to the gross domestic product of Lesotho by promoting educational tourism for youths from other climates. To achieve the foregoing aspirations, the following policies and strategies are being adopted by all layers of the university community. What are our strategies? I will take you through them very quickly. There are 7 items, and they are taken mostly from the strategic plan of the university. Number 1 is peace and open door policy. Without peace, you are going nowhere. The job of a vice chancellor consists essentially in continuous innovations. Okay, we're having a feedback. Thank you very much for giving us such a relief. All right. So I'm saying that the job of a vice chancellor consists essentially in continuous innovations, and we can only bring about change through innovations. And this is for the purpose of instigating greater efficiency. This brings about challenges, as some stakeholders may resist change. Change in established work culture may unsettle some staff and students, moving them out of their comfort zones and kindred challenges. Therefore, to create an enabling environment for the enhanced implementation of this vision, we shall pursue a communication-driven peace strategy, which requires that all conflicts are handled effectively at the preventable stage, and open cases can be settled amicably without wasting scarce university funds on litigation. The peace strategy will apply in all relationships with staff, with trade unions, with students, and the host communities. To further oil this strategy, an open door policy will be introduced to provide explicitly for regular meetings with all the major stakeholders of the NUL, not excluding the gentlemen of the press. And of course, not excluding our students, because they are the reasons we are here. A second strategy is to look at infrastructural developments. Priority projects will be identified through a careful process of community-wide study and the results validated with management and council. Efforts will be made to provide more students' hostel and student centers. The sporting arena is expected to receive a big boost with the hosting of the USC Games 2020, which is now to be held later in December 2021. There is a strong need to strengthen ICT infrastructure as a strategic response to the new normal of online pedagogy. So invigorated efforts will be made to garner support from all the stakeholders of the university. A third strategy is to address funding. Money. Capital and recurrent grants from government continues to account for a huge proportion of the funding of African universities. We shall support the efforts of government to craft a higher education funding policy that benefits all the stakeholders. And internally generated revenue will be further sourced aside from the NUL current investments in real estate. Typical funding strategies will include ensuring that fees are appropriate and competitive compared with other South African universities, accessing official and friendly funding strategies or agencies like government and non-governmental agencies, and the alumni for infrastructural and entrepreneurial interventions and projects get the names of their donors. We are going to partner foreign institutions for linkages, partnerships, and affiliation fees. And a way to operationalize that particular strategy is to engage in collaborations with foreign universities so that in all those universities where Basuto students are being funded by government, the NUL can be a part of that process. Because if they do a year here, the fees come to NUL, the fees reside in the country, generating multiplier effect to grow the economy. That way, our course offerings will be increasing in number, and the NUL will be growing and meeting the specific requirements of the nation. But I assure you that where government is spending money abroad is because some of those courses are not available in the NUL. But when we collaborate with foreign universities to offer those courses, it means that we are going to all mutually benefit at the end of the day. There are so many other funding strategies that are listed here, but because of time, I will skip them. But I note particularly one, which is a new thing in the world, although it's not very popular. It is to leverage on what we call experiential learning. How does that happen? Cognate work experience of students that they have acquired before they come to the university can be assessed and given credit towards their programs. I saw that also in Maryland. I saw it in Harvard. And luckily, when I was looking at the documents of the National University of Lesotho, I saw it also in the academic regulation that we are going to be able to do that. But unfortunately, it's not being practiced. I want us to revive this particular opportunity and use it to increase the studentship enrollment of the university. Much more importantly, I know this will be very interesting and very exciting to our bursar. It is that we are going to ensure that all funds are prudently applied and all the assets of the university are protected. I can see her nodding her head there. Quickly, I'll go to my fourth strategy, which is academic leadership. That's number 4. Academic staff must be adequate in number and quality. The efforts of NUL to increase the proportion of staff with a PhD and the professorial group will be strengthened. Opportunities for studies abroad will be explored. Extra pay for professors and lecturers will be pursued, and we shall strive to get industry to fund research. The other details are like 1, increasing the number of postgraduate degree offerings in the foreseeable future. The university has just secured the approval of council to set up the Directorate of Postgraduate Studies and Research Innovations. And I think this is going to help us a great deal to increase our course offerings at the postgraduate level. This is what is expected of us as a university with the kind of age that we have and the kind of opportunities that are available to us. 2, we shall attain and sustain full accreditation by doing what we call the national accreditation through CHE, and we will also look at international accreditors, because if we are setting up a business schools are usually accredited internationally, and we will not be left behind in that particular area. We will pursue regular publication and funding of quarterly journals. Public and inaugural lectures, journal production may be endowed by the alumni members, and each journal that is so endowed will be named after the alumni members that have endowed them. I want to let the cat out of the bag and to say that the Pro-Vice Chancellor, Professor Musito, that I call VC Musito, is on top of this particular project. And very soon, we are going to splash the whole place up with credible, authentic publications of the National University of Lesotho. Then we will do systematic evaluation and strengthening of academic and professional units as strategic business units. Every directorate in the university will be expected to make money for the university. It is possible. I've seen these potentials in all the directorates that we have. They are serving the university internally creditably. They should be able to carry those services outside also to make money for the university. We will establish more research chairs and more centers of excellence. Then I go very quickly to my 5th strategy, which is in the area of industrial relations and human resource management. Now, there are a number of trade union bodies representing various cadres of staff. So to achieve peace between staff and university management, trade union values of equity, fairness, and justice will be pursued. And I say this very boldly, that the major reasons you have conflicts in organizations is because the parties fail to pursue values of equity, values of fairness, and values of justice. And you see that even with our students' union, where both parties refuse to pursue or to toe the lines of equity, fairness, and justice, you will see conflict all over the place. But we will pursue peace, because that is what is expected of us as management, especially coming from my own background of industrial relations and human resource management. So specifically, we shall pursue number one, appointment and promotion of deserving staff members without sentiment, without nepotism, and avoiding mediocrity. Two, we will attract and retain the best brains, both locally and from the diaspora, with competitive remuneration. Three, we shall institutionalize effective staff onboarding at the entry point and regularly thereafter. This is a very important human resource activity that has been found to be very important in modern organizations. If people come into your field and you do not tell them exactly what to expect, and at the end of the day, don't blame them if they don't perform. I've enjoyed 30 days onboarding at the National University of Lesotho, and I can tell you boldly that I have imbibed the values, the culture, even part of the language of the people. And that is because I had an onboarding program. So I want to say that every staff member that comes to this campus must go through the office of the Pro-Vice Chancellor and sign the register of the PVC. What that means is that the PVC will have explained to him or her all that it takes to be a member of this community, and also what it takes to have the exit from the community. So once those things are explained at the point of entry, you find staff members running with the vision of the founding fathers of the university, and everything will come out well. Very important human resource strategies. Then we are going to pursue regular and staff and student seminars to update skills and conflict handling competence. I tell you, if you have not increased the capacity of your students to manage conflict, then you don't blame them if they decide to select any method of expressing their discontent. Conflict is inevitable in every organization. So how you handle it will depend and will now determine whether the conflict will escalate to a crisis. But for conflicts, they are inevitable. Crisis is what we want to avoid. So if you train them, then you have no cause to blame them at the end of the day. I go quickly to staff welfare. We will provide, within the limits of the resources available, which we are going to grow. Number one, internet facilities. This is very important. This is the very minimum that is expected in every organization of our status and of our dream. We will encourage staff ownership, home ownership schemes. We will encourage cooperative societies. PVC Mosito shared with me experience of some lecturers who have come together to cooperative for the purpose of funding their publication. And it's very, very exciting testimony that he shared with me. We will try to seek external funding for academic, social, and cultural events, and will equip befitting common room, parks, and recreation spots for the community. This is a village, and to make our work more enjoyable in a village, we have to provide the infrastructure to be able to do that. Unfortunately, COVID has not even enabled us to enjoy the modest forms of entertainment that have been provided on the campus. But we will see what can be done even within the environment that we find ourselves. The last but one strategy is university-town linkage. We would maintain very healthy, very peaceful community relationship so that the host communities at the university can live together harmoniously. There shall be collaborations with the local authorities to find a lasting solution to the large number of shops around the university fence, which has been criticized a great deal by many well-meaning friends of the university. We will look for a solution that would meet the several interests of students. But I can assure you, my students enjoy the presence of those people out there. And we have to be very sensitive to the needs of our constituencies. So we will try to find solutions that will meet all our several interests, the interests of students, the interests of the local community, so that we do not take away the means of livelihood of the people just because we are trying to beautify our environment. Part of our university linkage strategy will be in the area of advisory boards for faculties. We will set up faculty advisory boards, which will be in every faculty and every institute. We have a large number of alumni and friends from industry, friends from the diplomatic corps, friends from the military, government, public service, which can provide membership into the boards of the faculties. So we will explore that, and the faculty boards will advise respective faculties on the dynamics of specific industry needs, so that we'll not just be teaching without looking at what industry actually requires of our graduates. They will help us in curricular revision, they will help us to look for funds, and they will provide work experience and linkage assistance for our students who must go on internship for industrial work experience. Then part of the linkage with town is how we are going to commercialize our intellectual property. And I can assure you, researchers are only interested in research. The need to commercialize, to propagate the findings from research should actually be taken off the neck of researchers so that they can concentrate in their laboratories and their libraries. So I'm happy to say that Council has approved the intellectual property policy, which would now facilitate commercialization of our patents and other intellectual property. And this will free researchers from the drudgery of looking for buyers for their outputs, thus creating more time to concentrate on their researches. Huge results are emerging from the NUL Incubation Hub, which we shall make more visible in the following months. What is happening in our Innovation Hub is not yet visible, sufficiently visible to the rest of the world. And this pains me dearly that so much is happening in the place, but it's relatively not known. So I want to crave the indulgence and the cooperation of gentlemen of the Fourth Estate to help us to publicize, make more visible those researches and innovations that are happening at our Innovation Hub. Lastly, on that university town linkage is the Advancement Office. We are going to set up an Advancement Office which will assist the registrar to strengthen the capacity of the alumni to organize, because we have so many of them, high net worth individuals, even our natural ruler, His Majesty, is a product of this enterprise. Ministers have come from NUL. Even right now, the Vice Chancellor of UNISA is a product of the NUL. We have what it takes to have a formidable alumni. So we are going to strengthen the office of the registrar with an advancement office so that we are able to get them organized and they begin to do a lot of things for the university to move us forward. Lastly, but much more importantly, is students' affairs, my strategy for student affairs. Our student affairs strategy will enable students to enjoy a conducive environment for learning, including a friendly but firm approach by staff members in their teaching, discipline, and mentoring functions. And I also say that there will be a firm approach by management in the mentoring of our students and their leaders, because we owe them that responsibility to make sure that they are growing up, we are nurturing thought leaders according to our vision, so that when they go out tomorrow and they become leaders, both now, in fact, they are leaders already, and when they take up political leadership in society, we'll be very proud of what they are doing out there. That will be very key in our students' affairs strategies. Why are we going to do all that for our students? A satisfied student will be an engaged alumnus. Current students and alumni will sell the NUL brand to their colleagues to instigate massive enrollment by admission seekers, both within and outside Lesotho, and also good donations from the alumni. There must be peace among students and the university management, staff, and the host communities. So what are the measures we will take to bring this about? We are operating the dual mode of educational pedagogy, which is face-to-face and then distance learning. Open and distance learning is the new way of doing business, which avoids issues of illness, loss of job, inconvenience, loss of a loved one, and other kindred issues which constrain effectiveness of the physical mode of learning. I've just quoted from the speech of His Majesty at the last convocation .1 ceremony, where he was encouraging us to do more of open and distance learning. We will incubate more businesses on campus to encourage student entrepreneurship, and this will be unique to the brand of NUL, as well as serve as to industrialize the host communities. The trend already started will be strengthened. They will strengthen the existing health facilities for staff and students and develop sporting activities in order to reduce stress and criminality. Those are the 8 strategies. So what are we going to get as the outcome? What do we expect from all of this? We expect to have, for staff and graduates, a highly conducive environment which will lead to increased student engagement and increased achievement of superior grades. It is very sad that in the 21st century, the millennial children that we are asked to nurture, many of them are not interested in superior grades. For one reason or another, they are mostly interested in catching fun, using their different devices on internet and stuff like that. Maybe they are also discouraged from pursuing superior grades because of the experience of their senior brothers and sisters who left school and who have not been able to get good jobs. All of these things will be addressed, and we will now begin to have a change in the attitude of our students to their studies. Then a highly engaged and committed alumni will respond more positively to future invitations and develop the NUL. Our unique entrepreneurship education and one-on-one industry mentorship will lead to sustainable employability and livelihood for our graduates. For the staff, they will have improved income and livelihood, which will increase their motivation and morale. Their trust and engagement will increase, and this will lead to higher levels of productivity and reduce turnover, which we currently experience, especially among academic staff. Then we are having a reputable institutional brand, which will lead to increased attraction and retention of high-caliber staff. What will this bring to council and management? Increased inflow of funds, which will facilitate the achievement of management goals towards a better performance of the strategic goals of the NUL. What will this bring to the government and the people of Lesotho? The NUL is a national icon, and it's a legacy. The university contributes to the kingdom, socio-economic, political, legal, and technological innovations. So the achievement of its goals would give government and the citizens of Lesotho a huge source of pride. So having said so much, what is the request I am making of gentlemen of the Fourth Estate? Higher education innovation is never a one-off phenomenon. It's continuous. Paving way for continuous improvement, especially given contemporary trends that requires organizational resilience. Moving the NUL forward by upping its agility to the point of setting pleasing paces of distinction and global prominence is a task for all its stakeholders. And these tasks are perfectly within our exceptional endowment and certified competence. We have everything that it takes to do it together. Because a tree cannot make a forest. I wish to call, therefore, on all lovers of the NUL and staff, students, the media, you are our friends. You're not going to be our enemies. Because I always say that when two friends are smiling at each other, they're not saying the truth. But when you frown and you make some declarations, it will cause both parties to sit down, review their situation, and progress will come out of it. So I believe that in your presentation, you may be critical, but don't be destructive. Just like VC Mosito had said, you are our friends, and we rely on you very much to be able to achieve all of these things. We are going to join hands together with us to achieve a resilient and agile NUL. And I say, may God grant us the unction to function towards credible achievement and for his glory alone. Once again, gentlemen of the press, please accept my appreciation for enabling me to address this august audience. I thank you for your attention. God bless you.
When this session was prepared, you can imagine we were all wondering what statement of intent the new Vice-Chancellor would present. And we didn't know what he was going to say until this morning when he made it known to us. Thank you very much, Professor Fajana. We hear you, sir. Your statement is a very clear statement of intent, very pregnant, and at least it can stay pregnant for 5 years, but maybe offsprings will be coming every year from that pregnancy. I'm referring to pregnancy because when the Vice-Chancellor was presented to the Honorable Minister of Education recently, he was happy that he was presented on the first day of September, the 9th month, and he referred to childbearing, and as a family man, I know he understands that offsprings come out of some good intentions. We welcome your intentions, VC, and we heard you that we have to become trees together so that we can form a forest. I am the MC for this event, but as the registrar, I also have an assignment to communicate in brief what I would otherwise be saying to a number of media houses, as it is usually the case. So my presentation, if I can run through it, is going to be very brief because it is intended to inform the media and the nation through the media of what is happening at NUL as we run quickly towards the 2021-2022 academic year. Because of the lateness of our start, some questions were already arising as to whether the university is closing or not. If small institutions haven't closed, why would the National University close? We are not closing. We are opening. And as of 5 o'clock yesterday, the university already had in its records 1,763 admitted students. 701 of them are males, and 1,062 are females. So we have students. That is why new students will be arriving. People are also wondering what happened, because at this time last year, we were running around with boxes trying to deliver admission letters, and we even took the letters to EMs, thinking it would be easier for the letters to be delivered in Maseru so that applicants don't need to travel to Roma. We didn't see that activity this year. That is because this year, applicants to the university received notification for admission via SMS. We received all applications online. We received well over 5,000 applications, all of them online. And we followed the normal selection program process where faculties sit and look at all admitted applicants, go through the selection criteria, and identify applicants who qualify for admission. I must say, there are programs, special programs such as nursing, which even when applicants qualify, they will not gain admission. Because nursing, for example, has a capacity to take up to 65 students, but it received 565 applicants. So it means even when you would qualify, sometimes in nursing, you may not get admission. But when that happens, then you go to a second choice. And if you find the second choice is full, now we are going into third choice, into fourth choice, depending on availability of space. So applicants received SMS notifications, and the SMS notification said, congratulations, Ditebo Makadigal Rotodi, that's me. You have been admitted to B.Ed education, and your student number is 2021-00023. That is what the SMS will say. Applicants also received an email that gives them credentials to the new system through which we received applications. And it is that email that gives them the rights to the system, and they access information, detailed information from that system. It is accessible on desktop, but for those who want to access that from their cell phones, they have to download the app from the email. And going forward, that is where they will see their timetables. That is where they will be reminded of when an exam is set. That is where their lecturers will also be sharing information to the students. And please note, for now, this is applicable for first-year students only, because we are piloting it as we are phasing it in. Some applicants have not received SMSs because of the way they presented their cell numbers in their applications. We presented an example in the application form that you put in a country code plus 266, for example, and then you put in your cell number without spaces. For those who put spaces in between the digits, the system is not able to read them correctly. It creates characters in between those digits, and the messages are lost. However, realizing that there are applicants whose cell numbers were not properly presented, we assume that everybody will receive emails. But then later on, the email concept is still new. Some applicants are saying, oh, I don't even remember what I put in. I didn't know it was serious. I just put in something, I can't even remember what it is. So there are some who will not get the SMS, they will not even get the email. So as we admit students, we decided to put all admitted lists, which would otherwise be all around our walls and windows. The admission list, we decided to put them on the university website. When you go to www.nul.ls, you will see all the programs to which applicants have been admitted. And you will see even those who may not have received SMSs nor emails. And because under normal circumstances, those who receive emails will also be receiving admission letters, acceptance forms that guide them on the steps to take in order to accept, how much to pay in order to say, now I am coming, take me in, and also attached to that an application form for accommodation for those who wish to be accommodated on campus. We also put that admission package on the website, so that if you haven't received an SMS and an email, but you see your name on the admission list in the program you had applied for, then you download the admission package and accept. To the University of Lesotho, guided by the council, we agreed to cooperate with government. Remember, NUL is a public institution. And when the country has to perform a national assignment, the national university must and is always in the forefront. So we will seek the indulgence of parents and the students and the staff who will be on campus to observe that certain areas of the campus will probably not be accessible for us during that time. Most likely 2 weeks, from 2 weeks prior to the event and a week after the event. However, we have designed our almanac of events such that even though during those events, some work can continue to happen. Sometimes COVID has brought some benefits. Online learning can happen even when some athletes are running around. And then what will happen to the exams? We will start with we begin with the lectures, and we will go on until we close for the Christmas recess, which will be somewhere in mid-December. We'll go home for Christmas. We come back after New Year, 3rd January, examinations, first semester examinations. So we will have examinations. We are going to open. We are going to receive students. And for those who have been admitted, the first batch of lists have been submitted to the authorities who need to hold hands with us in supporting those who have sought support for their tuition. Having said that, Madam MC Registrar, I think we are almost running into other spaces. We had thought we would finish by 11, but Director Communications, I think you can come up, Madam, and do the question and answer session unless you want me to do it. I need a break. Please come. We will take your questions, and as much as possible, the officers of the university who are here, the VC, PVC, librarian, BEZA, and the directors and deans who are here, and other staff, the SAR and the like, will assist the team to respond. Over to you, Mayor, Director Communications. Mema Msa Mutiti is the one you should be asking questions, not the registrar.
Thank you, Mayor Registrar, the MC, Vice Chancellor, Pro Vice Chancellor. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached that point where we open for questions and answers. And as the registrar has rightfully indicated, all who are here, starting with the management, the executive management, senior management, staff, we are here to take your questions and respond to them. So I'll take the first round of questions right now. I'll take 3 or 4 questions right now so that we'll finish early. Can I please see the hands? Yes, I noticed there's Ndade at the end. And may I also ask that before you make your question, kindly introduce yourself. Yes, I see 2 hands for now. Yes, Ndade, you may. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I forgot to mention that, yes, we do use Sesotho and English as our official languages. But where you can, in order to accommodate our staff members who are non-locals, please try to use English. But we are still welcome to use Sesotho. Yes.
University has agreed to take part. When it was because previously, and I had the bike facility that I school, south of gates. Only what already existing facilities for accommodation, all in Sakala one army have in charge because I have had decision. Yeah, okay, I can't get the moment, but I'm interested in Kavana. Kabela ya decrees and journalism, how far is the university? And I think there are Ukwelege Gare for this academic year, Anayaba, Itata Ikenel, but I don't go to Guyana. In the cultural ability, some of the things that are little how they look around for it, so they will be another academic year, maybe in the future.
Ke kopa letsoala wa bedi ke ntate.
I wish to ask that we see if he is willing to run with already existing projects that were in the pipelines, such as the establishment of School of Engineering. I would also wish to know which academic programs, both undergraduate and postgraduate, that he would want to be introduced. Also, could the Vice Chancellor expound on the point that now fees will be reviewed? He said he wanted them to be at par with those of South Africa, but South Africa being more advanced than Lesotho, I'm wondering if that proposition will be, how feasible would that proposition be? The last question is that NMDS is one of the important stakeholders of NUL. And normally there is a delay in paying the tuition fees and on their end, and resulting in students embarking on strike and sometimes vandalizing. And how is he going to make sure that he improves on those relations and that NMDS commit timely? Thank you.
Okay, I'll take another hand if there is one at this point. It looks like we don't have hands. Let it happen. If we have another mic, can we use it here? Yes. Is this one?
You can bring it in.
Okay, please bring it in, Daddy. pens, yes.
Thank you very much, Madam Director. I will just address perhaps the first two questions posed, and if need be, I will come in respect of the last. OSAC Region 5 dates. Remember, as it has been indicated, it is government which has agreed with other governments that it is going to hold those games here, and identified NUL as a games village, amongst others. NUL agreed. Now the question is, well, are there going to be other infrastructures that are going to be put in place, as we had been promised? The answer is, government has since indicated that she is not in a position.
University that you are coming. You will note, some people are questioning this. You will note that the university reopened applications on the 30th of August. We reopened just for 1 week to close again on the 5th, which was on Sunday, because we were aware that some applicants had failed to submit by the previous deadline, which was the 30th of June, because results, LGCSE results were published in May, at the end of May, when normally they are published in February. We also realized that some needed to supplement some subjects in order to qualify. But also, as we were admitting at NUL, we also realized that there are some good students who are only short of one symbol, particularly in mathematics and English. And immediately we ran a bridging program. And that bridging program attended to the shortages in mathematics and English, both subjects which are basically required in most of the programs. English is required in all programs, but mathematics is required mainly in the science-based programs and in some programs in the Faculty of Social Sciences, the economics, the commerces, and the statistics. We also realized that for some programs, particularly in the faculties of humanities, education, and at our institute, EMs, we were way below our quotas. So we were making it possible for those who maybe had not applied on time or were supplementing to get a second chance. But that didn't stop us from admitting. Other than the bridging program, which was a special program for those who will have completed high school, but will not have passed, particularly mathematics and English well enough, we also have provision. We made provision for the second year running now for students of the university who would be continuing, who would otherwise have to carry forward certain courses and repeat them in the 2021-2022 academic year. We are aware that there are some basic prerequisite programs or courses, like in mathematics, in communications, and in other programs, which if you don't pass them, it becomes difficult for you to proceed. But for some students would have to carry them forward, but it's particularly critical for completing students who would, if they were due to graduate, would not graduate and have to come in the new academic year just to do one course. That winter session also ran, and you will note that all of those would be running post the publication of the LGCSE results and post the publication of our own internal university results. While on results, let me talk of the news story in town. There's a big issue around the supplementary examination results, which are still pending. And the reason they are pending is because there was a system error that prevented the capturing of the marks for the supplementary results. When this error occurred, there was an assumption that one of our service providers, the ICT service providers, has probably not been able to switch off a button somewhere, and that disabled a facility which would generate mark reporting sheets for lecturers to capture that. It took a long time because there was also assumption that that service provider is aggrieved and it may not respond. Fortunately for us, when we sat and investigated the matter, we realized that actually that component is a locally generated software. So it was an error that occurred at NUL. And fortunately, our NUL ITS has since identified that. When Adapt IT, our main service provider, notified us that, no, this one is not in our box. It is a locally produced software, so please attend to it. And it has been serviced, and it is up now. It is unfortunate that it is coming this late. We should have noted this, but we are glad that we will finally have results for the supplementary examinations, together with the winter session. That new students are coming tomorrow. They know that. They are coming on the 9th September, Thursday. And incidentally, when I went back to the almanac of events for 2020-2021, it is exactly the same date on which new students arrived in 2020. It was for a different reason. 2020, we were still dizzy with COVID. This year, we thought we are stabilized with COVID, and then we were hit by other incidences. Returning students are scheduled to arrive, or not arrive. They are not going to arrive, the returning students. Let me explain. New students will arrive on campus because they have to be introduced and oriented into the new way of learning. They are coming to campus, but they will not be taught face-to-face. They are still going to be taught online, but they have to be introduced to our systems and oriented so that they can learn. They will be here, they will be in their residences, they will be accessing the library regulated, but they will be learning online. Returning students will begin to register on Thursday, the 16th, 2021, online also. And lectures will begin on the 20th September for all the new and the returning students. Like I've said, tuition will be predominantly online with limited on-campus sessions for practical and laboratory work. That Senate determined as soon as we started with the online. At some point, we thought everything can go online, but we now know that laboratory experiments are not doable online. You can view how they are done, but if you have to practice how to inject someone, those who do the injections in nursing, you can't do it online. You can read about how it's done, but have you been injected by someone who doesn't do it right? And he pricks you and the blood comes out and they go, eh! We don't want that. So occasionally we'll have special face-to-face session. Only first-year students, postgraduate students, and students with special needs will be accommodated on campus. And the Office of the DSA knows how to select them. I noted that some returning students last week wanted to ambush the DSA to come and occupy the hostels. because they are missing the campus. I feel for them. But we are not yet in a position to accommodate everybody. I should mention the graduation. We're still going to have a graduation because students have passed. And this year, it is still going to be a virtual graduation like the first one that we hosted last year. And this one is scheduled to be broadcast on the 23rd of October, 2021. It is still going to be virtual because the circumstances still not allow the level of congregation that the big pomp graduation ceremonies would require. One other important activity that we are going to host is the National University of Lesotho, the OSC Region 5 Games, which are scheduled to run from the 3rd to the 12th of December. People will be wondering how come we agreed. We agreed because this is a national event. It's an event in which the country has made a commitment, and it is an event which, if we are not able to host, the penalties will be higher than we can ever imagine. And as the National University,
to construct new infrastructure, regard being had to issues of time and issues of budgeting. But it has also undertaken that it is going to refurbish the existing infrastructure, both the halls of residence as well as those that belong to Pius, the town, and those of the NUL, as well as the other facilities that would be required for purposes of accommodating the athletes. So the answer is that we are not anticipating the construction of new facilities, but we are expecting a refurbishment of the existing infrastructure. On that basis, we agreed to assist the government and Fajana. Two, the next question, Chancellor.
May I kindly interrupt?
Yes, please.
I think his question further to that was what is going to happen to the students while we receive the...
Oh yes,
The
I think the
visitors.
registrar has already addressed the issue. Now I am required to repeat. The students, as the registrar has indicated, will be on campus for a specified period. But during the approach to the games, the period when the games will be approaching, the students will have been accommodated on campus. Some of them may be within zones where they will be required to vacate those. And arrangements are being made to ensure that we implement that when need arises. I say when need arises because everyone is praying that the games become a success. And that is not in the hands of anyone. It is in the hands of government. If government succeeds in its intentions to go ahead with the games, then we will reach the stage when we have to ask our students to vacate in preparation for the accommodation of the athletes. Otherwise, and God forbid, then we are going to say, well, our children, you have to stay in residence because the games are not taken. I don't know if that answers your concern. Now, degree in journalism, that's the one I was saying, the DC will interpret what I'm just about to say. Now, I know that is what you are trying to do, saying, well, let us take an opportunity and capitalize on what we have now and ask the question. And I have seen this WBC in the government, in one newspaper, in which the issue had been raised, that there was some expectation that we would be having the journalism program, the bachelor's program offered this year. The answer, as you saw in that newspaper, is that the National University of Lesotho was indeed given some assistance by the US Embassy in 2018 to come up with a program. But the NUL ran with the agreement and arrangements for the program until everything else was finalized throughout the structures of the university. As you might realize, the situation is now different since 2004. The government has since come up with a new piece of legislation called the Higher Education Act 2004. In terms of that act, no institution or institute is permitted to can start offering a program unless and until the Council on Higher Education has given a green light. So we had to make all the arrangements, present all that we needed to present to CHE, and the CHE came back to us to say we need more information. We gave them more information that they were seeking, but they have since not come back to us. The expectation was that those who were pursuing that issue would then take it up with the Council on Higher Education. I was surprised when I read the newspaper. It was saying CHE was not available for comment. Nonsense. CHE is there in Maseru. How can you say it's not available? So I'm simply saying, no, that is, we are waiting patiently for CHE to do what the law says it should do. Otherwise, the NUL is more than ready to start running with it. And the Act is saying, if you go ahead and offer it without a green light from CHE, you are knocking on the door of prison. Now, we have no intention to go to prison. So we are still waiting for CHE. We know it will come back to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Lady.
So it is not going to be offered this semester or this academic year, as matters now stand. Oh, the next question is about
Directed to the new VC.
The policy issue. The policy issue on schools of engineering. Are you running with the already established?
Okay.
Established and existing
Yeah.
programs.
Yeah.
And which programs do you feel must be
Yeah.
introduced at now?
Yeah.
How the issue of fees being reviewed will be attended to, and how will the university intervene to the LMDS and the students with regard to the payment
Yeah.
of stipend?
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
we shall answer.
Put them down. Thank you very much. I don't know whether my voice is clear enough. I have to remove this masquerade thing. All right. Now, with regards to running with the existing budget, the university is an organization that exists in perpetuity. What that means is that there is continuity of government. So if we have a budget that's already gone through council and it's already passed, we are under strict obligation to run with it. So all the provisions there, all the established positions by way of staffing, all of those things are there. We just have to operate within what we have. The School of Engineering is still very much on course. But just like VC Mosito had explained to us, there is a very hard process. And I'm using the word hard because there's procedure for establishing new programs. We have legal procedures established for starting new programs. Even for us to do a restructure and to change the nomenclature of some faculties or some institutes, there are procedures that we have to follow. So we are going to follow those procedures where a particular organ of government is appearing to be causing a delay. We will try to go after them and pursue them because this is a general trend in this part of the world, that probably some agencies need a little push, or maybe just a little encouragement, or a little persuasion before they begin to do the needful. We will try as much as possible to ensure that success is ours as an institution. Success is a popular man in the street, and failure is an orphan. So if you have a goal, you must pursue it so that you are successful. At the end of the day, when you are celebrated, nobody wants to know how you got that success in the first place. They're only going to celebrate with you when you succeed. So we will try as much as possible to be their friends, who will be on their neck, and VC Mosito will always accompany me to go and do the persuasion so that we get exactly what we want. Because the truth of the matter is that we need these programs. You see, government cannot be accusing us of not growing and at the same time not facilitating the process of growth. So I believe all stakeholders must work together to make sure that we pick up the speed to be able to do things fast and get to where we want to get to. Journalism, I assure you, is a very important course, not only for Lesotho, but for the African continent. Because you are the conscience of the people. You are the ones that monitor the trends. You are the ones that assemble all the facts, and you leave the audience to make up their decisions. Without you, there will be breakdown. There will be, what do you call it now? A state of anomie, where rule of law is no longer obeyed and all kinds of chaos would happen. But because you are there to raise the awareness of people, I believe a course in journalism is a must, and we will get there sooner than later. It's a pity that we are not able to do it this session, just like VC Mosito had explained to us. Now, with regards to new programs to introduce, we first of all like to prioritize. Even the existing programs, there is a need for us to change their nomenclature to make them more attractive to the younger ones. VC Mosito would say to make them more romantic, if I'm quoting his words. But then even to do that, there's a procedure to follow. And we will not let that deter us. We will go ahead and do the needful. Our EMS in Maseru, for example, we need to change the name. We are thinking about a National University of Lesotho Business School, which can come out of it. We are thinking of a Distance Learning Institute. These are names that are more romantic. Let me quote VC Mosito. So that at the end of the day, we actually doing what we're supposed to be doing as a university. The fees, how feasible will it be to even try to compete with universities in South Africa? I tell you, when we get there, we will work it out. Fees are charged based on the contents They are based on the environment, and they're also based on the affordability of the candidates, so that we will not close access of our children to education. We will still achieve that competitiveness by putting all of those factors into consideration. Now, the question about NMDS delay, I know Registrar would make some comments on that as well, but then, again, we can have peace if we plan for it. If we increase the capacity of our students, to understand the circumstances, to understand the processes for getting them to be paid their entitlements, then you are preventing conflict from escalating to crisis. But if they don't know, and we leave them in the dark to speculate, they could go ahead and do anything, because everybody wants to pursue their own interests and their own needs, and they want to use anything to get what they want. So we will try as much as possible, like I said earlier on, when I was explaining the peace strategy, to increase the capacity of our stakeholders. We will train them so that they understand what is happening and they know what to do to get what they want at the right times. How we can persuade NMDS, I'm sure Registrar would like to make some comment on that. But for the protests, which has become a season of repeated, recurrent activities every year, I think there is something we can do about that to get our students to appreciate that peace is much more important than crisis. I hope I've been able to react to most of the questions here. Thank you.
Thank you. We see, I think, the registrar would like to add some few words to the questions that have been posed.
Thank you, Madam Director. Maybe to speak on the NMDS, we are used to talking around NMDS and delays, but the delays which used to result in student uprisings and boycotts were happening in a period when NUL and NMDS were in an agreement that for the first 2 months, the student allowances, what is called the lump sum, which are allowances for meals and accommodation, would be paid to the university in order to speed the disbursement of such allowances when it still occurred. Since we are now in the second year where we have since cut that agreement, so that no money now comes to the university by way of allowances. As soon as students are contracted, NMDS processes the allowances itself. There is no time when they will ever come to the office of the BEZA and the office of the registrar to say, where are our allowances? They even thought we are putting them somewhere generating interest. So we are no longer receiving any student allowances. So we are not expecting any squabbles between ourselves and the students in as far as their allowances, what they are called stipends, are concerned. However, in relation to the tuition fees, to be honest, This last year was the first time that we went through the whole academic year and tuition fees had not been paid to the level that it happened. We want to believe that it was the once off that will never happen. The last time when we had a query with NMDS, it was in relation to the fee structure, when we had not agreed on the escalation by 10%, which had been approved by council, and we submitted the escalated fee structure and implemented it, whereas NMDS reported it had not budgeted for it, so it would not pay. And then we had an issue with a shortfall. That is the one major time in 2018. Then again, this year in 2021, in the academic year 2020-2021, we had a challenge where NMDS was behind. But when we looked deeply into the non-payment, we realized that it was not only NUL, it was all of us, institutions of higher learning in the country and outside. So it was a national crisis which faced not just NUL, but all government. We are praying hard that we don't experience any challenges with NMDS. We will face some challenges as it is now because we are not operating on the normal schedules. But things being normal, NMDS normally pays up, and towards the end of the year, there'll be only a few amounts that will probably be queried. Like the VC has said, building capacity of stakeholders will probably help us a great deal, so that as it is now, we share information as to when it is that students can expect their stipends. But with a clear understanding that in as far as NUL is concerned, we have now pulled out of the stipends arrangement. So our interest now is only in as far as tuition and accommodation fees for students who are accommodated on campus is concerned. Their living allowances and rentals will be going directly from NMDS to their bank accounts. I hope that adds a relevant component to the Vice Chancellor's response.